The door slammed behind me like a gunshot in the dead of night, and there he was, Everett, my roommate, my rival, my everything I couldn't admit, standing in the doorway with a duffel bag slung over his shoulder and fire in his eyes. "This ends now, Lucas," he growled, his voice cracking like thunder over the Charles River, the words slicing through the humid Boston air that clung to our dorm like a bad memory. I froze on the edge of our shared twin bed, the only one left after the housing screw-up, my heart pounding as if I'd just run the marathon, knowing that whatever came next would shatter the fragile truce we'd built over stolen glances and late-night study sessions. It started innocently enough, or so I told myself in the hazy glow of freshman year nostalgia. Harvard's undergrad dorms were a pressure cooker of ambition and isolation, and as top TAs for Professor Hale's brutal American Lit seminar, Everett and I were the kings of that chaos. We weren't supposed to share a room. Hell, we weren't even supposed to know each other beyond grading papers and dodging undergrad crushes. But when the housing office botched the assignments during move-in week, there we were, two 22-year-olds crammed into a shoebox suite in Winthrop House, one bed short because some admin forgot to order the extra frame. "It's temporary," they'd said with that Ivy League smile, handing us a voucher for a futon that never arrived. Temporary turned into eternal, and what began as a logistical nightmare bloomed into something far more dangerous. I remember the first night like it was etched in the frost on our window panes. I'd claimed the bed out of sheer exhaustion, 48 hours straight on caffeine and Kafka, and Everett had crashed on the threadbare rug with his jacket as a pillow. He didn't complain, just shot me that half-smile, the one that crinkled the corners of his hazel eyes and made my stomach twist in ways I wasn't ready to unpack. "Survival of the fittest, huh, Lucas?" he'd quipped, his southern drawl slipping through the Boston chill like warm bourbon. He was from Atlanta, a transplant like me from the Midwest, but where I was all sharp edges and skepticism, raised in the Rust Belt grit of Cleveland. Everett carried the easy charm of someone who'd learned to navigate family expectations with grace, or so I thought. By week 2, the bed became our unspoken battlefield. I'd wake to find him sprawled across it, his long legs dangling off the edge, textbooks splayed like fallen soldiers. "Dude, boundaries," I'd mutter, shoving his hip with my knee, but he'd just roll over, murmuring something about shared resources in a capitalist hellscape, his voice thick with sleep and that infuriating wit. It was flirtation disguised as friction, each nudge and glare laced with the electric undercurrent of two guys who'd spent too many seminars stealing glances over dog-eared copies of The Great Gatsby. We were both gay, out to the department at least in that performative progressive way academia demands, but neither of us had crossed the line. Not yet. Harvard's hallowed halls preached tolerance, but the whispers in the TA lounge were vicious. "Everett's too pretty to be taken seriously. Lucas is just Hale's golden boy." We armored ourselves against it, but in that tiny room, the walls closed in, forcing us to confront what simmered beneath. The hook of it all was how seamlessly we fit, despite the rivalry. Mornings blurred into a ritual. I'd brew black coffee in our hot plate jury-rigged like a bomb, and he'd hum old Springsteen tracks while shaving at the sink, steam fogging the mirror like secrets. We'd walk to Sever Hall together, shoulders brushing in the autumn leaves crunching underfoot, debating Whitman versus Dickinson with the fervor of men staking claims on more than just literature. "You're too cynical, Luke," he'd say, elbowing me as we crossed the yard, the spires of Memorial Church piercing the sky like accusations. "Life's not all disillusionment." And I'd fire back, says the guy who quotes Dead Poets Society unironically. But his laugh, deep, unguarded, would echo in my chest long after, a reminder that beneath the barbs, there was a pull, magnetic and terrifying. Fall semester dragged on, leaves turning to sleet, and the bed war escalated. One night, after a brutal office hours marathon where an undergrad had sobbed over her thesis, I collapsed onto the mattress without a word. Everett hovered in the doorway, his silhouette backlit by the hallway fluorescence, and for a split second, I thought he'd join me, slide under the covers like it was the most natural thing. Instead, he tossed his pillow at my head. "Move over, usurper." I graded twice as many essays today. I caught it mid-air, the fabric warm from his touch, and something snapped. "Earn it," I shot back, my voice lower than intended, laced with challenge. He lunged, playful at first, but it turned into a tangle of limbs and laughter, his weight pinning me down as we wrestled for dominance. His breath ghosted my neck, hot and ragged, and time fractured. His hazel eyes locking on mine, inches away, pupils dilated in the low light. "Neither of us gives an easy," he whispered, and I swear my heart stopped, the room shrinking to just us, suspended on the edge of confession. But we pulled back as we always did. Blame the ghosts of our pasts mine. A high school coming out that ended with my father's silence and my mother's tears. His, a family Bible Belt fracture where love meant conditional grace. We buried it under stacks of syllabi and shared Spotify playlists, curating a fragile peace. Until the betrayal. It hit like a nor'easter, sudden and unrelenting. Midterms week, Professor Hale pulled us into his oak-paneled office, the air thick with pipe smoke and privilege. "One of you will lead the spring seminar," he announced, his tweed jacket creaking as he leaned forward. "It's a career maker, publications, recommendations, the works." Everett and I exchanged glances, the kind that spoke volumes without words. "This is it, our shot." But Hale's eyes lingered on me. "Lucas, your pedagogy's innovative." Everett, "Well, polish that charm into substance." The dismissal in his tone was a gut punch, and I saw it land on Everett like a freight train. His jaw tightening, that easy smile fracturing. That night, the dorm was a powder keg. I claimed the bed early, feigning sleep, but Everett stormed in late, reeking of cheap whiskey from some off-campus dive. "You knew, didn't you?" he hissed, yanking the blanket off me. I bolted upright, the cold air slapping my skin. "Knew what?" "That Hale's an old-school prick." He loomed over me, his face a storm cloud, betrayal etched in every line. "Don't play dumb. You schmoozed him at that faculty mixer. Laughed at his jokes, quoted Frost like some golden retriever. And now, you're his pick, and I'm the sidekick." The words stung because they weren't entirely wrong. I had networked, clawed for every inch in a system rigged against outsiders like us. But to hear it from him, twisted into ambition's venom, it felt like a knife to the ribs. "Everett, that's not—" I started, but he cut me off, grabbing my shoulders, his grip bruising. "It is. You always take the bed, the credit, the goddamn spotlight. I'm done giving in." He shoved me back, and I hit the mattress hard, the frame creaking in protest. For a heartbeat, we stared, breaths sinking in the charged silence, the line between anger and desire blurring into something raw. Then he turned, slamming the door behind him, leaving me adrift in the wreckage of our room. His pillow still warm, mocking me with the scent of his cologne, sandalwood and regret. The fallout was seismic. Days blurred into a cold war. Silent breakfasts where our forks scraped plates like accusations. Seminar sections where our banter turned barbed, slicing through undergrads who shifted uncomfortably in their seats. I threw myself into prep for the lead TA role, but every outline, every lecture draft, echoed with his absence. Whispers spread through the department. Everett's unraveling. Lucas is Hale's pet. And in the quiet hours, when the dorm's radiator hissed like a confessional, I'd replay that shove, the heat of his hands, wondering if it was hate or hunger that fueled him. Betrayal begets its own kind, and mine came swift. Desperate to prove my worth, I submitted a solo proposal to Hale for a guest lecture series, Queer Voices in American Canon, drawing from notes Everett and I had brainstormed over late-night burritos. I didn't credit him, didn't even mention it. When Hale greenlit it with fanfare at the next staff meeting, Everett's face went ashen, his fork clattering to the table. Later, in the empty lounge, he cornered me. "You stole it," he said, voice eerily calm, like the eye of a hurricane. "Our idea. My insights on Baldwin, on the invisibility of desire in straight narratives. You erased me." I opened my mouth to explain. The deadline, the pressure, my fear of losing the slot, but the words died. Guilt choked them because he was right, a taken just like he'd accused. That night, the fight erupted in full. He burst into the dorm, soaked from the sleet-pounding Cambridge streets, his eyes wild. "Get off my bed!" he roared, charging forward. I stood my ground, heart hammering. It's ours, Everett. Or have you forgotten? He tackled me, a blur of fury and fabric, and we crashed onto the mattress in a heap, fists clenched but not swinging, breaths mingling in the fray. You always win, he gasped, pinning my wrists above my head, his body a live wire against mine. But not this time. The room spun, the world narrowing to the press of his chest, the vulnerability in his fractured gaze. Rain lashed the window like applause for our unraveling, and in that suspended chaos, I saw it. Not just anger, but love, twisted and starved. I didn't mean to hurt you, I whispered, my voice breaking, the admission cracking open the dam. His grip loosened, but he didn't move, our faces inches apart, the air thick with unspoken truths. Then why does it feel like betrayal every time you look at me? The question hung, raw and American in its Midwestern Southern ache. Two boys from fractured homes, chasing validation in a city that devoured dreams. Tears pricked my eyes, hot and unbidden. Because I love you, you idiot, and it scares the hell out of me. The silence that followed was louder than any storm. Everett's breath hitched, his hazel eyes searching mine, the fight draining from his limbs like ink in water. Slowly, deliberately, he released my wrists, his hands sliding to cup my face instead, thumbs brushing away the dampness on my cheeks. Lucas, he murmured, my name a prayer on his lips. I've been fighting for this bed because it's the only place I could pretend you were mine. The confession shattered me, pieces of denial scattering like the leaves outside. We didn't kiss. Not then, not in the heat of wreckage. But we held on, foreheads pressed together, the bed cradling us like a confession booth. From there, the thaw was tentative, laced with the grit of real healing. We talked through the nights, voices low under the covers we now shared without pretense. About my father's silence after I came out at 17, how it echoed in every ambition I chased. About Everett's sister, who disowned him for choosing sin over family dinners in Georgia, leaving him to rebuild in Boston's indifferent embrace. The bed war ended not with surrender, but alliance. We co-proposed the seminar to Hale, blending our voices into something unbreakable, a testament to queer resilience in a canon that often sidelined us. Spring bloomed late that year, dogwoods defiant against the lingering chill, and our love unfolded like a well-worn novel. Pages dog-eared with inside jokes, margins filled with annotations of the heart. We'd walk the Charles at dawn, hands brushing until they linked, fingers interlacing like roots seeking soil. The department noticed, the softer edges to our barbs, the way we'd linger after meetings, eyes catching like fireflies. Hale even grunted approval. You two balance each other, like Whitman and his wild self. But climax has a way of circling back, testing the seams. Graduation loomed, job offers dangling like bait. Mine a tenure-track whisper at Yale, Everett's a fellowship in Atlanta, pulling him homeward. Come with me, he urged one evening, as we lay tangled in sheets that smelled of us. The city lights flickering through the blinds like Morse code for goodbye. We could start fresh, away from this pressure cooker. I wanted to, God, how I ached for it. But Cleveland called too, unspoken family mending I'd ignored too long. And leave you to face them alone? No. The argument simmered, then boiled over in the yard under a canopy of blooming cherries, petals falling like confetti for our unraveling. You always choose safe, he accused, voice rising, drawing stares from passing tourists. The bed, the job, me, until it's inconvenient. The words echoed our first fight, betrayal's ghost rising anew. I grabbed his arm, pulling him into the shadow of Widener Library, where the stone walls muffled our storm. It's not safe, Everett. Loving you is the risk, the only one worth taking. He searched my face, the fight warring with fear, and then, in a moment that felt scripted by the gods of drama, he pulled me close, our kiss finally breaking free under the arches, fierce, forgiving, tasting of salt and spring. We didn't choose easy paths. I took the Yale offer, he the fellowship. But summers became ours. Road trips down Route 66, chasing Steinbeck's ghosts in a rented Mustang, or quiet weeks in a Provincetown cottage, waves crashing like applause for our survival. Betrayal's scar faded to a reminder. Love isn't possession, but persistence, the humanistic grind of showing up day after flawed day. Years later, as I stood in my New Haven office, a framed photo on the desk, us on that dorm bed, laughing amid the chaos. Everett burst in, Ty Askew, a ring box in his fist. "Marry me, usurper," he said, grin crooked as ever. "Neither of us gives in, but together, we conquer." And in that instant, with the Atlantic wind whispering through the open window, I knew. Our story wasn't tragedy or triumph alone, but the beautiful, battered in-between. The American dream of two men building a world where beds and hearts were shared, not fought over. Looking back, that proposal wasn't the end, but a hinge, swinging us into the messy epilogue of real life, where romance collides with routine like a fender bender on the Mass Pike. We married in a backyard ceremony in Cambridge, under a tent strung with Edison bulbs that swayed like fireflies in the July humidity. My sister flew in from Cleveland, her hug fierce and tear-streaked. "You deserve this joy, Luke. Dad, he's trying." Everett's family sent regrets via email. Polite Bible verses about forgiveness, no plane tickets. But his Atlanta cousins showed, awkward but earnest, toasting with sweet tea and stories of his boyhood tree forts. It was us. Imperfect, resilient, a queer love letter to the heartland's contradictions. The first year was honeymoon haze laced with logistics. I commuted weekends to New Haven, grading papers in his cramped Atlanta apartment that smelled of magnolias and microwave popcorn. We'd argue over video calls. Me buried in Foucault footnotes, him wrangling undergrads who mistook charm for curriculum. "You're fading on me," he'd say, his face pixelated but pained. "This distance is killing the spark." I'd counter with facts. "Tenure's a beast. It's temporary." But doubt crept in, a slow poison. Nights alone in my faculty housing, staring at the ceiling fan's lazy spin, wondering if I'd chosen ambition over us again. Betrayal revisited in subtle shades. During a conference in Chicago, I reconnected with an old TA rival, Jordan. Sharp-tongued, ambitious, with eyes that lingered too long over craft beers at the hotel bar. It was nothing physical, nothing like the fire Everett and I shared, but the flirtation fed a starved ego, a whisper of what if in the anonymity of the windy city. I confessed over the phone that night, voice trembling. I didn't act on it, but I thought about it, and that scares me. Silence stretched, then his response, steady as oak. "We're human, Luke, flawed, but trust? That's the bed we can't afford to fight over." We drove through the night to meet halfway in Philly, crashing into each other's arms at a Greasy Spoon diner, cheesesteaks cooling untouched as we rebuilt, brick by vulnerable brick. Climax struck unannounced, as it does in the best American tales. Raw, redemptive, road-tested. Everett's fellowship soured. His advisor, a silver-haired Southern academic with a drawl like kudzu, sidelined his queer theory thesis as provocative but untimely. Whispers turned to sabotage. Leaked emails accusing him of plagiarism, echoes of my own uncredited proposal years back. He spiraled, the man who'd once quoted Neruda at dawn now hollow-eyed, whiskey bottles piling like unanswered prayers. "They see me as the pretty boy, not the scholar," he confessed one rain-lashed evening, as thunder rolled over the Chattahoochee. I drove down that weekend, abandoning a department deadline, and found him on the fire escape, staring at the city lights like a man unmoored. We fought then, not with shoves, but words that cut deeper than any dorm room tussle. "Fight back," I urged, pacing the tiny living room, bookshelves sagging under the weight of our shared canon. "Call hail, leverage our network. Don't let them erase you." His eyes flashed, old wounds reopening. "Easy for you to say, golden boy. You never had to charm your way past the gatekeepers." The accusation landed, true and terrible, dredging up Boston's ghosts. "And you think I don't carry that guilt? Every step I took, I dragged you with me, or tried to." He stood, closing the distance, his hand trembling on my arm. Then stay. Help me fight this here, not from some ivory tower. The room held its breath, the storm outside mirroring the one within. I thought of that twin bed, how we'd claimed it together, inch by stubborn inch. Leaving Yale meant risk. Tenure dreams deferred, whispers of unreliability, but staying? That was love's true drama. The humanistic choice to stand in the mud, not above it. Okay, I whispered, pulling him close. We're in this. No more solos. We spent the night mapping strategy, emails to allies, revised proposals infused with our dual voices, turning betrayal into battle cry. The resolution came gritty, unglamorous. A department investigation cleared him, the advisor's biases exposed in a scathing internal report that made academic headlines from the Chronicle to Twitter threads. Everett emerged scarred but stronger, his thesis published to acclaim, a foreword penned by me. To the man who taught me surrender is strength. We relocated to a hybrid life, me adjuncting remotely, him lecturing at a progressive Atlanta college. Our home a shotgun rental in Inman Park, with a queen bed we bought secondhand, wide enough for sprawls and secrets. Emotions deepened in the afterglow, romantic in their quiet profundity. Mornings found us tangled in sunlight-dappled sheets. His head on my chest as I read aloud from Giovanni's room, voices weaving through the crepe myrtle outside. We'd host barbecues for his cousins, now tentative allies, grilling ribs while I dodged sweet tea and shared stories of Harvard hijinks. My family mended slowly. Dad's first visit awkward, his handshake firm over burgers. Proud of you, son. Both of you. It was human, halting, the American patchwork of forgiveness. Yet suspense lingered, an undercurrent in our happily ever after. A job offer came for me, full professor at Emory, a stone's throw from home. Everett eyed it warily over dinner, chopsticks paused midair in our Thai takeout. This the bed we're fighting over now? He teased, but his eyes held the old fear. I set down my fork, taking his hand. No fight. We decide together. We did, accepting, but with clauses for joint projects, ensuring our paths intertwined like kudzu vines, beautiful in their tenacity. Years folded like well-loved pages. Adjunct gigs turning tenured. A dog named Whitman adopted from a shelter. Holidays split between Cleveland blizzards and Atlanta heat. The drama softened to emotional anchors. Everett's panic attacks after bad reviews, soothed by my steady recitations of E. E. Cummings. My imposter syndrome flares, quelled by his lists of my unassailable wins. Romance bloomed in gestures. Surprise tickets to a Springsteen concert in D.C., where we danced in the pit like dorm room wrestlers. Handwritten notes tucked into lecture notes, you're my wild self, always. The most memorable scene, though, the one that replays in my mind like a film reel on a rainy Atlanta afternoon, is from our 5th anniversary. We'd rented a cabin in the Smokies, escaping academia's grind for gravel roads and ghost stories. A storm hit hard, power flickering as we huddled by the fireplace, flames dancing shadows on the walls. Remember the bed? Everett murmured, his head on my lap, fingers tracing patterns on my knee. I nodded, throat tight. How we fought for it. He sat up, eyes gleaming in the firelight. And how we won by giving in. We kissed then, slow and sure, the thunder outside a symphony to our survival. In that moment, with rain drumming the roof like applause, I understood the story we'd written. Not a fairy tale, but a testament to the gay American Odyssey. Dramatic falls, suspenseful rises, betrayals redeemed through raw, romantic humanity. Neither of us gave in. We grew together, bed by bed, heart by heart, into a love as enduring as the rivers carving canyons below. Decade markers sneak up like ungraded essays piling on a desk, and our 10th anniversary dawned with the quiet insistence of middle age. Gray threading Everett's temples like silver footnotes, laugh lines etching my eyes deeper than any plot twist. We traded the shotgun rental for a craftsman bungalow in Decatur, its porch swing creaking under the weight of porchside suppers and neighborhood barbecues. Life had settled into a rhythm. Morning runs along the Beltline, where joggers nodded hellos without the old stares. Evenings co-teaching online modules, our voices harmonizing over Zoom like a duet long rehearsed. But beneath the domestic hum, the dramatic pulse of our story lingered, a reminder that love, like good literature, thrives on conflict resolved, not erased. The next betrayal was self-inflicted, a slow-burn suspense that tested our seams. Everett's book, a groundbreaking anthology on Southern queer narratives, garnered a MacArthur nod, whispers of genius Grant rippling through the lit world. I swelled with pride, toasting him at a backyard party with craft IPAs and fairy lights, but envy slithered in unbidden, coiling around my own stalled manuscript. Why him first? The voice hissed, echoing old dorm doubts. I buried it in busyness, department politics at Emory, where I chaired the diversity committee, fighting for more queer hires amid budget cuts. But resentment festered, manifesting in snappish replies. Pass the salt? Becoming, "Can't you see I'm reading?" He noticed, of course, Everett with his poet's intuition. One night, as cicadas chorused outside, he set down his laptop and fixed me with that hazel stare, softened by years but no less piercing. "What's the fight this time, Luke? The bed's big enough for both our egos." I deflected, mumbling about deadlines, but he pressed, gentle as kudzu. "It's the Grant. You're happy for me, but it stings." The truth landed like a gut punch, forcing confession. I feel left behind, like I'm still scrabbling for that twin bed while you claim the whole damn room. Tears came then, hot and humiliating, and he pulled me onto the couch, his embrace a harbor. "We're not rivals anymore. Success isn't zero-sum. It's the story we tell together." That vulnerability cracked us open, leading to our deepest emotional dive yet. We enrolled in a couples retreat in the Berkshires. Cheesy, perhaps, with trust falls and tantric breathing, but American in its earnest therapy-speak optimism. Under pine canopies, we unpacked the layers. My Cleveland scars, where achievement was armor against abandonment. His Atlanta ghosts, where brilliance came with the asterisk of, "But you're gay." I betrayed us by letting envy win, I admitted during a guided share, voice echoing in the wooden lodge. Everett squeezed my hand. "And I betrayed by not seeing your load. But here we are, still standing." The climax of the week was a solo hike he dared me on, up a misty trail to a overlook, where fog-shrouded valleys stretched like unwritten chapters. At the summit, alone with my thoughts, I journaled the fear. What if love means outshining each other? Descending, I found him waiting, wildflowers in hand. "For the man who climbs his own mountains," he said, and we wept, laughed, made love under the stars. Not urgent, but reverent, a romantic reclamation. Humanism infused our healing, extending outward. We mentored a queer undergrad collective at Emory, hosting potlucks where stories spilled like sweet tea, tales of rejection, reclamation, the grind of being out in the Bible Belt's shadow. One kid, Javier, reminded me of dorm-era Everett. Fiery, fragile, fighting family for authenticity. When his parents cut him off post-coming out, we opened our home, guest room becoming crash pad. "You two give me hope," he said over pancakes one dawn, and Everett winked at me. That's the plot twist, passing the bed forward. Suspense peaked again in a health scare. Everett's routine checkup flagging a shadow on his lung, the word biopsy dropping like a curtain call. Waiting rooms became our new dorm, sterile chairs our battlefield, as we gripped hands through endless magazines and bad coffee. "If it's bad," he whispered in the dim-lit hallway, "promise you'll keep fighting for you, for us." I choked on the vow, memories flashing. That first shove, the warmth of his pillow, the smoky storm. Tests came back benign. A false alarm, scar tissue from a boyhood bronchitis. But the terror forged us tighter, emotions crystallizing into gratitude's gem. Romantic flourishes followed, defying the years. For our 15th, we retraced Harvard steps, strolling the yard hand in hand, no longer hiding glances, drawing smiles from tourists who saw not scandal, but storybook. We snuck into our old dorm, alumni perks, the room now housing wide-eyed freshmen, and laughed at the twin bed's ghost. "Think they'll fight as hard?" Everett mused, arm around my waist. "They better," I replied, kissing his temple. Back home, We adopted a second rescue, Emily, after Dickinson. Her boundless energy chasing Whitman's lazy bones through our yard. A chaotic chorus to our quiet joys. The humanistic arc bent toward legacy. Semi-retired now, we co-authored a memoir, Bedfellows. A queer chronicle, weaving our saga with broader American threads. Stonewall echoes in Southern soil, Obergefell victories shadowed by trans rights battles. Launch party in a Decatur bookstore buzzed with faces old and new. Hale, frielier but beaming. My dad, arm around mom, toasting to loves that endure. Javier, now a published poet, read an excerpt, his voice steady. They taught me neither gives in. Together, we claim the whole narrative. Knots of conflict still tied us. Arguments over thermostats or travel plans, petty echoes of bed wars, but they dissolved in laughter. The drama mellowed to wry anecdotes. One evening, as fireflies danced in the yard, Everett pulled me onto the porch swing. Regrets? He asked, head on my shoulder. I pondered the arc. Betrayals mended, climaxes conquered. A life rich in romantic depths and human frailties. Only that we didn't fight sooner for this. He chuckled, that old drawl wrapping me like a blanket. We fought plenty, and won. In the end, our story isn't capped with tidy bows, but open-ended grace. The kind America promises in its anthems, if you claw for it. Two TAs, once rivals over a scrap of mattress, built an empire of shared spaces. Beds, books, beats of the heart. And as the swing creaked into twilight, his hand in mine, I knew. Neither willing to give and made us unbreakable. A testament to love's most dramatic truth. It's not the fall, but the fierce, feeling rise.